As a rail fan, I would say that most anything can be lumped into three categories. There's your everyday occurrences, a Metro running those boring as watching grass grow ex-Amtrak engines, perfect example. Because it's so common, you don't even notice it after a while, and you won't really go out of your way to see it. Then you've got your rare occurrences. Foreign power, reroutes, maybe a delay has led to an odd time of day for a train to be there. Things that you take notice of and you try and go catch them if you can. Then there are things that are so rare or so special that you just know you have to go catch them. This is the story of the night I spent waiting for the very first CPKC 180, and then a bonus story after that. After I got home from getting some work done in the morning, I turned on the radio at my desk and waited to hear anything out of Bensonville on 180. What I ended up hearing first was 253 getting a marker and brake test hours before it normally would. It ended up getting the light at B17 about 1:45 in the afternoon, and the reason was pretty obvious. They didn't want this lowly, glorified local delaying their big, shiny new toy, so they were giving it hours of a head start. When it picked up its warrants for the Chicago sub, the drawbridge told them that there was a 252 in Savannah that they would need to meet somewhere, but they weren't sure where. That 252 would also need to be out of the way by the time 180 started west. That means either in a siding or east of Pingree Grove on double track. I hadn't heard anything, but about 6:30 I packed up and headed to Roselle anyway. I knew from a Facebook group that 180's call time was either 6 or 7 p.m., but it obviously wouldn't immediately leave at that time. But I could try and catch the very tail end of the evening rush anyway. When I arrived in Roselle about 6:50 and inbound Metro was at the station, 2248. I had just gotten out of the car, so no video. Not too long after came an outbound 2243 with the Milwaukee Road Heritage Unit in the lead, a nice start to the night.
Milwaukee West train number 2243 to Big Timber is now arriving. Please step behind the yellow line. Milwaukee West train number 2243 to Big Timber is now arriving. Please step behind the yellow line.
I've still not heard a peep out of 180 since I got to Roselle though. Sunset was a few minutes after 8, and sure, it stays light for a while after, but I knew for a good shot I needed to leave very, very, very soon. But there also wasn't really a whole lot I could do about it, so I kept on waiting. Next up was a westbound 2247. With an hour gap between this one and the next outbound, I sure hoped this would be the slot they'd put 180 in. This was probably the only chance I had to get it in any kind of light.
Milwaukee West train number 2247 to Big Timber is now arriving. Please step behind the yellow line.
As if divine intervention, while 2247 took up Roselle, I heard the mechanical department doing a brake test on something.
Well, something's doing a brake test. Yep. Oh, over there?
Yep. I didn't know for sure that it was 180, but I hadn't really heard much of anything from 230, that also normally leaves about this time or later, so I didn't think it would be them. Also, side note, on my recording radio I was only recording the Elgin Sub Road channel, so no mechanical recordings. In retrospect I regret this, but we'll get to that. Sunlight was very rapidly fading, but if they got ready, it was still plausible to get it in some kind of light. Then it happened.
AC Tower B17, over. 180, let me take a look at you here. 180-11, go ahead, over.
We have 16, we have 17, followed by the CPKC 22 low, 0 and 6 on the sun, 39, 93 on the second unit is a 80-10, it's not a
talk to the dispatcher. You'll probably be following this next westbound Metro. You got the conductor and you ready to go over?
Or is that not the brake test? Well, we're still at like no. Oh, okay, I was like, wait a minute.
Port signal, have a safe trip. CPKC Tower B-17 out.
Unfortunately, because they chose to run it behind a Metra, it meant there was very little chance it would still be even a little bit light when it got here. The decision made sense, though. Metra is, I think, still very wary of the merger, and at least on the west line, B-17 has been trying to stay on their good side and not run anything too close ahead of a Metra. Maybe the Elgin dispatcher is too, but their radio is always so quiet, so who could actually tell? As 180 was pulling up to B-17 on new arrival, I actually heard someone from Mechanical telling some of the carmen to stop and check out the train as it was leaving. I've never heard that before, and I wish now I was recording Channel 24 and would have captured that. But too late now. Full disclosure, this video is going to look awful. I know it, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. It was almost 9 p.m. and thus approaching an hour since sunset. It was dark. 2249 pulls in as light as basically gone, and I knew 180 would likely only be a signal block or two behind.
Please step behind the yellow line.
And maybe 5 minutes later, and with absolutely no light remaining, I heard a horn to the east, and...
Westbound freight, Metro 2252, over.
2252, over.
Yeah, we're just going by the airport here. What do you guys got going on?
Just coming into Hanover.
Just coming into Hanover, you want to keep rolling us, or what do you want us to do, over?
How fast are you going?
C1 right now as we speak. We can go as fast as you need us to go, it's level 1.
Well, you can keep it rolling. We should hopefully be in and out of your way. I'll let you know if anything changes, but you can keep it coming.
Alrighty, thank you. We're coming your way, over.
You're welcome.
As 180 passed, I remembered that 252, which has been sitting out at Randall Road. I considered staying for it, but I didn't know when it would get released, so I opted to head out and grab dinner. Turns out that was the right choice. It would be another hour or two before 252 ran onto the Elgin sub. If you view the CPKC merger as a marriage, then the first 180-181 could be viewed as the consummation of the marriage. Here in Chicago, it almost didn't feel like anything had happened, and you would never really know a merger had taken place unless you heard the dispatchers using CPKC on the radio instead of CP. KCS power had already been relatively common, so even that wasn't overly exciting. But with 180, that was kind of the first time to me that the merger finally felt real. Was 180 the most exciting train in the world? Not really. It was short, it ran in the dark, which meant not really much of a view, and I stood there for 2 hours waiting for it. But do I regret it? Absolutely not. I had expected the first 181 to arrive near Chicago the following Monday morning, although it ended up being Sunday morning. I had to run down to Kentucky for the weekend and was coming back on Sunday, so there went my chances at catching both first. So I'll settle for the second 181. I probably wouldn't have even headed down, except the consist for the second 181 is definitely unique. You'll see what I mean. It was through the Quad Cities about 6 or 7 a.m. and rolled up to Sabula a little after 9 a.m. It has to wait for this work train to clear the drawbridge. Assuming the normal track speed, no stops, and the Elgin taking it right away, it should be in Schaumburg in give or take 3 hours. There's an inbound metro that leaves Big Timber at 12:22. It will probably run after that, but I'm not sure. Either way, I'll keep an ear on the Northern Illinois Railroad stream, and when I hear the Hampshire detector, head down. However, the time comes when it should be reaching the detectors that the stream can hear, and absolutely nothing has come over the radio. To make a long story short, they made 181, who, after Kansas City, consisted of only 2 stack cars and the entire CPKC locomotive roster on the front, stop and pick up a big string of manifest cars, I think either at Kittredge or Adeline, not sure. At any rate, this hotshot intermodal now is more manifest than intermodal, but that would explain why I heard nothing from it for hours. It finally made it to the Hampshire detector about 2:30 p.m. or so. I could hear 253 being put together too, and the plan was to have them meet on double track somewhere. So I went to Schaumburg for the first time this year. It's actually been a while since I had been there. When I got there, outbound Metro 2221 was in the station and led by the City of Chicago F40PH, which I've seen before, but it would have been cool to see again. Oh well. On the way, I heard 181 talking to the Elgin dispatcher and 253 doing a brake test. 253 was actually marking up with the Elgin when I parked the car. I knew 181 was at Randall Road. It was just a matter of time when it would get released to actually go. If 253 was marking up, it also wouldn't be too long before they were rolling. Inbound 2242 left Big Timber at 3:22, and there wasn't another Metro for another hour. This was the most likely slot to fit 181 in, and as long as they were ready to go, it would likely not be too far behind 2242. About 3:45, here came 2242.
Station is now arriving. Please step behind the yellow line. Milwaukee West train number 2242 to Chicago Union Station is now arriving. Please step behind the yellow line.
Now, after 2242 leaves, I have to try and figure out which freight would get here first. Since I'm pretty sure that 181 is left and I have absolutely no idea about 253, I set up on the north side of the tracks. I was right, and up first, here comes 181. I was standing here and I sensed something weird. So I turn around and...
mark room.
It's an interesting 100 series train.
We had some disappointed picture takers over this one. Only allowed 45 minutes for a pickup in Savannah.
Guys look good, but marker on the route.
Good on marker on the rear.
Well, that sure happened. I don't like being that close to the train, but sometimes you just don't have a choice. It'll be interesting to see if they treat 181 like this regularly. I'm not sure if the manifest consist was a 252 or what the deal was behind that. But my guess is CPKC doesn't want to make a habit of delaying their brand new premium intermodal trains by picking up cars along the way. Before we finish, I also want to give two quick shout-outs. First is Northern Illinois Adventures, who also endured the 2-hour wait for 180 at Roselle. Second is Fitz5549, who I met at Schaumburg waiting for 181. I'll link both their channels down in the description. It's always cool seeing fellow rail fans out in the field, and I hope through the course of time I'll meet more of you guys. If you say hi, you get a shout out, which I guess it's debatable how valuable or how much of a reward that actually is. You can follow me on Instagram and read the blog. Links are in the video description. Until next time, I'm Tyler, and thank you for watching the Northeastern Illinois Railfan YouTube channel.